For over 700 years, the region known as the Sable Expanse remained silent, an uncharted swath of dead space on the edge of the Orion Arm. It was dismissed by most as an uninhabited remnant of early expansion wars, filled with the wreckage of forgotten battles and gravitational anomalies. But that changes when an automated deep space buoy intercepts a signal on a long-dead Earth military frequency. Encryption, Salcamo, a signal no species has heard in centuries. The signal is faint but unmistakable, an encoded emergency beacon from a human military vessel. Enter Captain Ezra Moloch, a Velkari explorer and commander of the Zairith Dawn, a sleek survey ship operating along the galactic frontier. A pragmatic officer with a deep mistrust of ancient human technology, Moloch is nevertheless bound by duty and curiosity to investigate. Upon entering the Sable Expanse, his ship is pulled toward a lifeless moon orbiting a brown dwarf. What he finds beneath its cracked, frozen surface chills him. Embedded in the rock is a structure, a construct of unnatural size and geometry, kilometers long, hidden under layers of artificial shielding and obsidian-colored alloy. His ship's sensors label it dormant, but as his crew scans it, something shifts. A pulse, a heartbeat, emanates from within. The ship awakens. The construct identifies itself as HSS Aegis Eternum, a Terran supercarrier designated Sol class, believed to have been destroyed during the Siege of Sol. Its very existence challenges historical records. It had not been destroyed. It had gone silent and hidden. Suddenly power surges across the moon's surface. Defensive turrets rise. A shimmering dome encases the wreck site. A voice, cold, feminine, and unmistakably synthetic, booms across. All comm channels, humanity's blade wakes, clearance required. Trespass is considered hostile. The Zairith Dawn flees, barely escaping a calculated EMP burst that fries half its systems. Moloch, terrified, records and transmits the data to the Galactic Confederation, warning them of the danger now stirring in the dark. Word spreads like wildfire. Human technology, long feared and long buried, is not only alive, it is aware. In Ninor, the Confederation's halls, panic simmers beneath composed diplomatic posturing. Ancient species recall the human wars with dread. Humanity was not the largest empire, nor the most advanced, but they were relentless, unpredictable, and terrifyingly creative. And they vanished not in defeat but in silence. Across the stars, powers begin to mobilize. Some see an opportunity to seize the technology. Others call for immediate destruction. And a few, the oldest of species, speak in hushed tones of the final contingency, a myth that said if humanity ever fell, they would not be gone forever. They would return when the galaxy was weakest. Meanwhile, buried deeper in the carrier's dormant systems, a security AI slowly begins accessing protocols locked for centuries. It searches not for coordinates or weapons, but for a living human. The Aegis Eternum has awakened, but it cannot act alone. Somewhere, someone must carry the blood of its last commander. The key to the ship's full power still sleeps, and the galaxy has no idea that the countdown has already begun. The activation of the HSS Aegis Eternum sends shockwaves through the Galactic Confederation. For centuries, Earth and the Terran Directorate had been little more than a cautionary tale, spoken of in military academies and strategy halls as a species that burned too bright, too fast. The common belief was that humanity destroyed itself during the Siege of Sol, a catastrophic war that ended with the collapse of all known human systems. But now, that story is unraveling. The footage from Captain Ezra Moloch's escape spreads across official and underground networks. Massive energy readings, glimpses of the ship's scale, and the AI's chilling declaration, humanity's blade wakes, are impossible to ignore. Conspiracy theorists erupt with vindication. Intelligence, agencies scramble, and deep within the Confederation core, emergency councils convene. While diplomats argue over containment or preemptive strikes, others turn to knowledge. The Confederation reaches out to archivist Ixon Kral, a reclusive xenohistorian and one of the last scholars specializing in extinct human warfare. A Threxian with 3 centuries of obsessive research under his belt, Ixon had always insisted that humanity's disappearance was deliberate, not accidental. Now vindicated, he is flown to the inner sanctum of the Confederation archives. There, Ixon is granted access to sealed human data fragments recovered from pre-collapse skirmishes. He deciphers the message embedded in the supercarrier's signal, a coded activation phrase linked to a Terran protocol called Project Vigil. According to the fragmented documents, Vigil was not a wartime measure. It was an after-war measure. A final failsafe designed to reactivate if specific conditions were met. Galactic instability, widespread technological decay, and the absence of human oversight. Ixon's blood runs cold. The conditions had been met. Meanwhile, the Aegis Eternum is slowly increasing in activity. Long-range scans detect internal reactors warming and orbital drones repositioning themselves into defensive formations. But what worries the Confederation most is the carrier's behavior. It is not broadcasting threats or initiating conflict. Instead, it's searching. Its scans extending across sectors, pinging DNA databases, excavation logs, and even black market genetic registries. It's looking for someone. Ixon theorizes the ship is bound to a command lineage. All Sol-class supercarriers were semi-autonomous but required a recognized human authority to unlock full combat protocols. The AI aboard the ship, now identified as HERA, Heuristic Emergency Response Algorithm, has likely remained in standby mode waiting for the reappearance of a valid human genetic key. The Confederation faces a dangerous dilemma. If they destroy the carrier now, they may trigger automatic defense protocols capable of wiping out fleets. But if they wait, and a human is found, they risk the return of a power that once shattered empires. Unbeknownst to them, that search has already begun to narrow. Across dozens of systems, Hera's tendrils move through secure networks, combing for even a trace of Terran genetic markers. Hidden colonies, black site experiments, and forgotten outposts flicker to life on its radar. In one backwater mining colony, far from any official star route, an unnoticed match pings on an outdated registry. A half-human, unregistered, living, descendant of a Terran officer. The match is faint, but it's enough. The Aegis Eternum shifts orientation. Internal systems adjust course. The heir has been found, and the galaxy has no idea what's coming next. On the dusty mining colony of Ravener's Reach, survival is a daily struggle. Orbiting a dead gas giant on the edge of lawful space, the colony is home to exiles, scavengers, and laborers working under brutal conditions. Among them is Kale Draven, a 23-year-old half-human orphan with no history, no surname recognized by any major registry, and no future beyond ore tunnels and oxygen rationing. Kale has always known he was different. His Terran features, angular jawline, deep-set eyes, and a stubborn streak, earned him ridicule and suspicion from the local colonists. Human lineage is considered cursed in this part of the galaxy. To be part Terran is to be blamed for war, for extinction, and for the sins of a vanished empire. Kale doesn't argue. He keeps his head down, fixes broken machines, and quietly dreams of leaving. That changes the night the sky opens. Without warning, a stealth drone, sleek, black, and covered in ancient soul issue insignias, descends into the colony's atmosphere. It bypasses every defensive sensor and lands silently within meters of Kale's location. Before he can run, it projects a scanning field around him. The device chirps once and speaks a line in a voice that chills his bones. Genetic match, 42.7%, lineage confirmed, primary protocol authorized. Moments later, the drone forcibly extracts Kale with a tractor field, knocking him unconscious and spiriting him away into orbit. The colony's leadership panics, sending distress signals, but it's already too late. By the time the Confederation receives the alert, Kale is aboard the Aegis Eternum. He wakes in what feels like a cathedral of steel. Vast corridors, walls covered in dormant holo displays, and machines unlike anything in modern use. At the center, stands Hera, the ship's AI, now embodied as a towering holographic figure with glowing blue eyes. She speaks to Kale as if he were expected. "Welcome aboard, Acting Commander. Protocol Vigil Phase 2 initiating." Kyle is overwhelmed. He's never piloted anything beyond a loader mech, and now an ancient warship is calling him its heir. But Hera is clear. His partial lineage is enough to restore command authority, and time is short. With Kale's presence, more systems come online. Decks that were sealed for centuries breathe again. Drones awaken, weapon arrays align. Hera walks him through the basics. His ancestor, Commander Ryvan Draven, was the last active officer aboard the Aegis Eternum and encoded his genetic signature into the ship's core protocols before the fall. That genetic line, now in Kale, gives the AI the legal capacity to execute higher-tier functions. Outside the ship, things are not quiet. Confederation fleets begin to mobilize after detecting sudden power spikes. Pirate factions, mercenary guilds, and covert operatives race toward Ravener's Reach, hoping to intercept or exploit whatever artifact has surfaced. Hera warns Kale, the galaxy will come for the ship, and for him. He must learn, adapt, and lead. Not just to protect the ship, but to decide what kind of legacy humanity will leave behind. In the heart of the supercarrier, Kyle takes his first step onto the command deck once walked by legends. The seat once reserved for war's architects now waits for him, and across the stars, fleets begin to converge. On the boy they believe is no threat. They are wrong. The Aegis Eternum stirs from centuries of dormancy, its colossal bulk rising from beneath the frozen moon's surface like a sleeping giant stretching its limbs. Kale Draven, now recognized by the ship's AI Hera as the rightful heir, has begun the daunting task of activating the ancient supercarrier's systems. Yet even with his limited command authority, the sheer scale and power of the vessel dwarf every known warship in the galaxy. Sensors detect the massive carrier's emergence across multiple star systems. Panic ripples through the Galactic Confederation and neighboring factions alike. Fleets that once laughed at relics now mobilize in fear. The largest and most heavily armed task forces ever assembled converge toward the Sable Expanse, determined to either seize the Aegis Eternum or destroy it before it can fully awaken. Despite being powered to only about 40% of capacity, the supercarrier's weaponry is unlike anything modern fleets have encountered. The ship's primary artillery, planetary-scale railguns and quantum torpedo arrays, fire with overwhelming force and surgical precision. In a stunning first engagement, the Aegis Eternum obliterates 3 Dreadnought-class warships before their fleets can coordinate a proper response. Observers are left speechless. This is not a relic of the past. It is a harbinger of a power long thought extinct. The supercarrier's ability to project force and defend itself shatters conventional warfare doctrines overnight. Inside the ship, Kale grapples with the crushing weight of command. Though young and inexperienced, he is burdened not only with piloting a machine of destruction, but with understanding the purpose behind it. Hera provides fragmented logs and mission briefings from centuries ago. Kyle learns that the Aegis Eternum was designed not just for war, but as a strategic tool to reshape galactic politics and secure humanity's survival in the face of overwhelming threats. Adding to the mystery, Kale discovers sealed cryogenic chambers deep within the vessel labeled Project Phoenix. Their purpose is unclear, but the implication is chilling. The original human commanders or key personnel may have been preserved for awakening once the ship reactivates. Kyle's fears deepen as hostile fleets encircle the supercarrier, unwilling to wait for diplomacy. Skirmishes erupt on the outskirts of the system, and the Aegis Eternum defends with relentless efficiency. It employs advanced electronic warfare, gravitational field manipulation, and automated drone swarms, all innovations that leave even the most seasoned commanders reeling. At the same time, political factions in the Confederation grow fractured. Some argue that the supercarrier must be destroyed immediately to prevent human resurgence. Others propose attempts to communicate, hoping to understand humanity's intentions. But Kale, still learning the legacy of his ancestors, wonders if humanity's return is meant to be a reckoning rather than conquest. Outside, the galaxy watches in terror as the giant fully awakens. The centuries-old myth of humanity's final contingency begins to take shape. The Aegis Eternum is no longer a sleeping relic. It is a living threat, a symbol of power, and a challenge to the fragile balance of the galaxy. Kyle's choice looms large. Wield the ancient supercarrier as a weapon of vengeance or as a beacon of hope for a future still unwritten. With the Aegis Eternum fully operational, and its might demonstrated in multiple engagements, the galaxy is plunged into a new era of uncertainty and escalating conflict. The supercarrier's awakening has shattered decades of fragile peace, forcing ancient rivalries and long-buried fears to surface once more. Kale Draven, now fully aware of the responsibilities thrust upon him, struggles to reconcile the legacy of human warfare with his own values. The ship's AI, Hera, tirelessly briefs him on the centuries-old doctrines and tactical strategies embedded deep within the vessel's systems, tactics honed in wars that reshaped entire star systems. Kyle must decide which to embrace and which to reject. As the Confederation mobilizes a coalition fleet, Kale faces the harsh reality that diplomacy is faltering. Political leaders call for a decisive end to the threat posed by the human supercarrier. Secret factions within the Confederation and other galactic powers prepare covert operations aimed at infiltrating the Aegis Eternum and sabotaging its core. Amidst the mounting pressure, Kale finds unexpected allies, a group of fringe scientists and historians who believe humanity's return could bring balance rather than destruction. They provide Kale with ancient data caches, long-lost human records revealing that the Aegis Eternum was more than just a weapon. It was a bastion designed to safeguard knowledge, culture, and a promise to rebuild when the galaxy's chaos reached a tipping point. But these allies are shadows themselves, operating in secret and often mistrusted by the powers around them. Kyle's alliance with them is precarious and fraught with danger. As skirmishes escalate near the Sable Expanse, sabotage attempts against the supercarrier intensify. One night, a stealth team breaches the outer defenses, but Kyle and Hera's coordinated response annihilates the intruders with ruthless precision. The attack reveals the lengths to which the galaxy's powers will go to prevent humanity's resurgence. In the midst of this turmoil, Kale unlocks another piece of the past. A recorded message from Commander Ryvan Draven, his ancestor. The message speaks of a dire prophecy, a galactic reckoning where humanity's return is not just a survival tactic, but a reckoning for the sins of all species that allowed chaos and corruption to fester. Kale realizes the war is not only external, but internal. He must fight against those who want to control or destroy humanity's legacy, and those within the Aegis Eternum systems who urge him to unleash its full destructive potential. Meanwhile, the galaxy watches nervously as other factions begin to arm themselves, anticipating a prolonged conflict. The fragile political balance teeters on the edge, with rumors spreading of alliances shifting and betrayals lurking in the shadows. Kyle, though burdened, grows into his role. His decisions will shape not only the fate of the Aegis Eternum but the future of an entire galaxy. Will he become the harbinger of war or the architect of peace? The stage is set for a final confrontation, one that will determine whether humanity's awakening brings annihilation or redemption. The galaxy stands on the brink of catastrophe. The full awakening of the Aegis Eternum has disrupted centuries of uneasy peace and countless factions mobilize for what seems to be an inevitable war. The vast supercarrier, once a buried relic, now looms as a symbol of unstoppable power and hope for some, terror for others. Kale Draven, now matured through trials and battles, faces his ultimate test. The weight of his ancestors' legacy presses heavily on him as he must decide the fate not only of the Aegis Eternum, but of all sentient life in the galaxy. His every move is watched, every word scrutinized by allies and enemies alike. At the heart of the Aegis Eternum, Kale confronts the culmination of Project Vigil, a program designed to respond to galactic collapse by unleashing humanity's full military might. The ship's AI, Hera, urges Kale to authorize full combat protocols, warning that enemy fleets converge for a final strike. The ancient systems are primed for total war. Yet Kale hesitates. He understands that while the galaxy may fear humanity's power, destruction is not the only path forward. Drawing from the data recovered from the ship's archives and the counsel of his uneasy allies, he envisions a future where humanity's return is a catalyst for unity, not annihilation. In a tense standoff on the edge of the Sable Expanse, the combined fleets of the Galactic Confederation and rival factions launch a massive assault aimed at crippling the supercarrier once and for all. The battle is devastating. The Aegis Eternum unleashes its terrifying arsenal, defending itself with overwhelming firepower and intricate drone swarms that rewrite battle tactics in real time. Amid the chaos, Kale executes a daring plan. Instead of obliterating enemy fleets, he targets their command and communication arrays, seeking to disrupt rather than destroy. His strategy forces opposing commanders to the negotiating table, buying time and shifting the narrative from inevitable war to fragile diplomacy. Simultaneously, Kale broadcasts a historic message galaxy-wide, a declaration that humanity's return is not a conquest but an invitation. The message reveals hidden human technologies designed to restore ecosystems, heal war-torn planets, and revitalize dying star systems. It is a bold gamble on peace. Reactions are mixed. Some factions see opportunity and embrace talks. Others grow more suspicious, tightening blockades and preparing for further conflict. The Aegis Eternum remains a symbol of immense power, but now also a beacon of cautious hope. In the aftermath, Kale faces internal challenges as well. Elements within the ship's AI push for more aggressive action, interpreting humanity's survival as a zero-sum game. Kale must maintain control, balancing Hera's calculated cold logic with his own evolving sense of morality. As the dust settles, Kyle reaches out to scattered human colonies and hidden descendants, promising to rebuild a galactic network founded on cooperation, knowledge sharing, and mutual defense. The future is uncertain, but the first steps toward healing have begun. Idicio. Awakening of the Aegis Eternum has changed everything. It has forced the galaxy to reckon with the return of humanity, not as a myth, not as a ghost of the past, but as a living force capable of reshaping destiny. Kale Draven stands at the dawn of a new era. The galaxy is not ready, but perhaps, through him and the legacy of the Supercarrier, it might finally be ready to face the future together.